as far as songwriting and singing and everything goes, all points of heart meet in me. Hello.
Hello. You can see me and you can hear me.
I can. Yep. You look and sound great.
Yeah, I was about to say the same to you. You're looking fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you.
How's things with you?
Oh, things are going along fine. It's just preparing to release a record and go out on the road, and the weather's nice and life is good.
Well, I'm speaking to you here from Ireland, and it seems you've only played in Ireland twice. I think 87 in Belfast and 2004 maybe in Dublin.
I remember playing in Belfast in the 80s because it was pretty torn up and there's a lot of security around and tanks and things, and it was scary.
It's quite ironic chatting to you today that it's the anniversary of Kurt Cobain's death and Layne Staley's, and obviously yourself and Hart were at the spearhead of that whole, before there was a Seattle scene. And yes. I wondered how, did you meet those guys? Because I know you're friendly with Jerry Cantrell, Chris Cornell, but did you meet Cobain and Layne Staley?
The Seattle music community in those years was extremely tight, and everyone knew everybody else, and there wasn't really like a generational separation between musicians. And so it was a natural for when we finally got off the road from the 80s and went back to Seattle to relax a little bit. We just faded into the scene, and got to know a lot of those guys and women, and just it was a blessed thing, because we weren't comfortable with the big super high commercial 80s, and we were anxious to really shed that skin. And we did. Yeah.
Obviously we're going to talk about Fierce Bliss, and the number one thing that hit me listening to it, which I'm sure you've heard from others, your pipes have not dulled one iota. That voice is there.
Well, thank you very much for saying that. It's just, a voice is like any other part of your body. It changes with time, and you have to know exactly what it needs and what it doesn't need, I just try my best to be kind to it.
I want to talk about the single Greed, because genuinely it's my favorite song that's been released this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
There's something about it. It's just, I don't know, the melody, it's heavy, it's punchy.
Well, thank you. Greed is I think was written in a bit of a mood, because I was looking around myself and reflecting on the absolute materialism of our culture and how no one ever seems to have enough, myself included. I mean, being selfish has always been one of the things that I've fought against in myself, and needing so much attention and the spotlight always to be on me and all that. That's greedy stuff. And so that's what the song is about. It's like when I say I'm an angel, I'm a lush, I want nothing, I want too much. That's the struggle between the greedy self and the self that's trying to withdraw from that.
It's something else that runs through the album too, is the production. I'm a big guy for production, and I love how it sounds.
Yeah. The whole album was recorded by a guy named Chuck Ainley in Nashville, who he's a good human, and he's got great ears, and he knows how to get that big, warm, powerful, old school analog sound on tape, even though you record digitally and then you go to you record analog and then go to digital. Yeah. He knows how to do that so that it's got that certain thing that old school records had. And Tom Bukovac, my guitar player, who I just have all the respect in the world for, who I wrote with on this record, and came up with most of the musical ideas, especially for Greed. That whole thing about Greed, that riff and that crunch, that's all him, you know.
Yeah.
I was the lyricist, but he was the machine, you know, the muscle.
Another track that I really love is Black Wing. And you'll probably, being that you're such a Led Zeppelin fan, you'll be happy to hear that. To me, it sounds, you know, with the lead guitars, you got this Eastern thing going on. And it reminds me of Zeppelin.
Yeah, well, Black Wing is, I think, that song, in my opinion, could have been written back in the late 70s. I mean, it's got that same sort of poetic, it comes from that same poetic fountain. But it was just, it's got the whole soft, gentle, lyrical thing, and then it goes in, it gets big, you know. Yeah. And then when we got through with the song itself, the guys in the band just kind of dissolved off into this jam thing that I thought was so cool. I just left it on. So they that's a pretty retro song. I really like it. Now on Black Wing, the guitar was played by a guy named Tyler Boley from Seattle, who's an old friend, and he's not in a band. I just asked him to come and play on my demo, and he did, and he was all shy, but he was able to bring it, you know.
Yeah.
And it's cool because it doesn't sound like a cookie cutter guitar player at all.
There's a number of covers on the album, but to me, the towering one is Bridge of Sighs, which is epic.
Yeah.
I mean, you really nailed the attitude in that song.
Yeah. The guitar on that one is Kenny Wayne Shepherd, and he's a younger guy, and he just came in and he just nailed it. He was excited about playing that song when I asked him, and he just got it. You know, I think that Bridge of Sighs is a really powerful blues song. It's really deep, and it's sort of terrifying in a way, but heart-wrenching. And I just love singing it. I've always wanted to cover it ever since it was out by Robin Trower, and very satisfying.
You've also worked with Warren Hayes on this album.
Well, Warren and I worked together. Well, first of all, back in 2017, I believe it was, he contacted me and asked me to come sit in with Government Mule at a festival in Virginia, which I did. And then we really hit it off. And so he asked me to come and sit in with them a few more times live. And we struck up a friendship. And so when I did my solo album, Immortal, Warren came and played on a couple of tracks. Mm-hmm. And so when it came time for this record, he had an idea that he wanted to write a song that was long and sort of epic and went through all kinds of different changes, and sort of like the Zeppelin Rain song or something like that. And so he sent me just like an iPhone version of him playing guitar, and the song became Gladiator, which it goes a lot of places. So Warren is very easy to work with, and he's a great human being, and fantastic guitar player. Another
one that I really love is Fighting for Life, because it starts off laid back and then gets into this driving, you know, it builds to something else.
Yeah. When I wrote that song, I had just met and gotten involved with the man who had become my husband. And I wrote it about him, basically. He's a very spiritual person, but he's also extremely vital and energized, and can't stand still for a second, and is always moving. And he considers sleeping too much as dying, you know, like he has to always be going. Yeah. And I got the feeling when I first met him that he was just hanging on to life for dear life, you know. Yeah. He's not sick or anything. I just meant sort of in terms of living life to its fullest.
Yes.
So that's what that song is about. But then, of course, when you pull focus and look at the bigger picture of that song, it could be about culture. Mm-hmm. Just about we're moving, we're trying to like make it through these challenging, difficult times and keep breathing.
Is it a personal challenge for you to be releasing an album under your own name?
It's only challenging really for me because people need to be convinced that they can enjoy my stuff without the Heart name on it. I think that's the only part about it that's really challenging. But musically, it's been just a joy and a pleasure, and it's taught me a lot about what I can do, and it's led me to be a better songwriter and a better singer. I think just doing solo stuff. I've actually released a number of EPs since 2015, but this is only my third full album, and it's my first solo album where I've written so much.
The passion and the attitude in Greed is no different to the passion and attitude in Barracuda. You would think they were recorded the day after each other. I mean, how is that still possible?
Right. Well, when you think of it, as far as songwriting and singing and everything goes, all points of Heart meet in me. So if I sing a rocker, it's going to sound like Heart just because of that, And when I write a song for a solo album, I don't go, well, this is going to sound way different than Heart, or a song for Heart. This is going to just sound like Heart only. No, I just write the songs for who they are, and where they land, they land.
I'm fascinated by the track Barracuda. Do you remember recording it? Do you remember standing there ready to sing that song?
Yeah, I don't remember it minute by minute, of course, but I do remember being in the studio and getting that big crunchy track. And of course, in those days, I would be set up singing along with them as they cut. And because we didn't used to do the thing where first you do the basics and then the singer comes in and does all their vocals in a week, I was in this little ISO room singing it again and again and again until they got it. And what I remember the most about Barracuda was mixing it, because it was back in the days in the studio before automation. So if there were going to be moves made during the mix, somebody had to make them. So each person had their own little move they were supposed to make at a certain time. And we were all hanging over the board, and there was this haze of marijuana smoke in the air, because back then we used to smoke, in the studio. And we were doing this mix, and everyone was reaching in, doing their little move, and it was pretty fun. It was such unity.
You make something, absolutely magical from something that was quite poisonous.
Yeah, right.
Remark.
Yeah, it's all about the insult and the anger of insult that caused that song to be written.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your friend Chris Cornell, because I was watching the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction, and he spoke so beautifully. What was it like for you that night, and for Chris to induct you into the Hall of Fame?
Well, Chris, I didn't know that he was going to induct us, right? So when the moment came and Chris was up there doing it, it was really emotional, because because it was so personal and so intimate. And he was such a sweet soul, complicated, dynamic, troubled, and just to see him up there like glowing and giving this thing was really moving to me. I remember that. And I had no idea that he even cared about our band that much. We knew each other as friends, but we'd never talked about Heart together before.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a cool moment.
And then a few years later, it goes the other way around, and you paid tribute to Chris and sang Black Hole Sun. Yeah. That must have been quite moving for you.
Yeah. It was a very poignant sort of, I guess, closure in a way, or the circle, for sure. It pretty much knocked the wind out of everybody who knew him, because although there were hints of it over the years that he was deeply unhappy, no one expected that, and so it took a minute to absorb that loss.
I want to chat to you a little bit too about working with Jerry Cantrell. When you actually first worked with them on, was it the SAP EP?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, pretty early. Yeah, Jerry and I just, I don't know. There's something about each of our personalities that can understand each other, and it doesn't matter. The generational difference doesn't matter. The age difference doesn't matter. It's just like there's something about the child in me and the child in him that can play, and laugh together. and so the times we've done music together have been really great. I was really pretty honored to be asked to sing on their record. And I didn't really understand what I was doing at the time because they weren't yet the big, global phenomenon they are now. They were a local band then. But so, yeah, amazing things happen.
You mentioned it before, the 80s years. What was it like going into that? Obviously, big changes, change of image, outside songwriters, etc. Were you happy to go along for that, or did you have reservations?
At first, we were really happy to go along with it. We had had 2 albums that we couldn't quite find our footing, and we had we had a new rhythm section, Denny Carmassi from Montrose, and Mark Andes from Spirit and Firefall, and we were just breaking ourselves in, and we had Passion Works and Private Audition that kind of just didn't quite do it, and so we were trying to focus and find our new voice. And so when we signed to Capitol in I think it was 83, they were saying, "We believe in you, here, try these couple of songs and see what you sound like on them." And of course it was These Dreams and What About Love and stuff like that. So at first it was great, and the album just goes #1, and we have this new image, and MTV is a really great platform for us at the beginning. I think what happened was, as it went along, the image consciousness got really stale because it became the focus rather than the music. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the songs that we did by other people were more like empty fish bowls or something. And like anybody could have gone into that empty thing and done the song and made it theirs. So they didn't really have a lot of substance. Mm-hmm. And they didn't stand the test of time. Just a few of them did. These Dreams did. Alone did.
You became like superstars. Was it great to reach that international wow level of success?
Well, I don't know how a person can ever really be ready for that. It felt good and glorious, but it was at the same time, there was a balance because it was big, heavy work and focus, and 24/7 being with security, and you had to live in this bubble of security and go back to the hotel after the show and be locked in because there were fans roaming the halls and stuff like that. So it became it became a prison after a while. And so, yeah, there was a trade-off there. I mean, you got all the record sales and all the money and the fame and the glory, but then you live in this little prison.
And as you said, you were ready to come off that.
Been there, done that.
Next year, I think it's 50-year anniversary of Heart, quote unquote, getting going. What can we expect? What's on the horizon there? Can you tell me anything about that?
Well, it's still early days, and I can say that we have plans for it. It's going to be a very cool event, and we're gonna make a really good thing out of it, a big birthday celebration, and maybe even an album. So we'll see. It's happening. I just can't talk about it yet because it's so early.
Back to Fierce Bliss then, and you're hitting the road to promote it. You've got a US tour coming up very soon. Are you going to be going further afield? I'm going up to Nashville in a couple of weeks to write some more and rehearse with my band, Amazing Dogs. And then we are going out on the road. We're going to do, I guess it's about 15 or 20 shows on the west coast of the US, Mexico, Canada, and then we'll come back down to the southeast. And then later on in the year, they tell us we're coming to Europe, so especially UK. And so maybe we'll be seeing you.